So why they call it Crossroads? Well, first of all, I do feel like we're at a crossroads. We're at a choice point. Are we going to, just go back to what I call, restorative healing? Like, okay, let's just try and fix the planet. Let's try and okay, let's do more composting. Let's do more recycling. Let's try and bring the temperatures down so we can keep going the way we were. Can I fix my patients so that they can get back to their old selves again? Or are we actually going to make the choice here to take a different turn? So crossroads in mythology were always noted as sacred precincts. I mean, the cross itself as a symbol, this meeting point of heaven and earth is another way of expressing this idea of a crossroad. It's a choice point. It's a meeting of opposites, of course. And in the Chinese language, it has a very important kind of graphic meaning. So Wu, and there's even a homonym. When I studied with Claude Lorie, he was big on homonyms. You can actually use words that sort of sound the same and look and see what their family is. So they have different tones, which I am not able to pronounce, but we can see that in the translation of the word 5 from Chinese, it's Wu. And on the screen, you can see the modern character is the first one on the left, but the ancient character is a crossroad. So when you think of 5, it is, the cross, the 1, 2, 3, 4 of the square, and then the connecting point, which is the place of Wu, nothingness, the empty center, the point at the empty center. So the 5, when it comes together as a cross, out of it comes the point at the center, which is nothingness. And this character, which you see, the beautiful calligraphy on the right, is the modern form of that character. The ancient character, which I have in 5 Spirits, is a picture of a dancing shaman with tasseled sleeves. So you look at this modern character and you don't quite see it as clearly, but when you really look, you can see that the shaman has his or her arms outstretched. There's a little tassel left in the ancient characters, lots of tassels, and they're spinning. And they're spinning to actually create that empty center where, as we know, the emptiness is the conduit through which spirit, light, illumination can enter into the material realm, our life, our domain. So at the center of the crossroads, when we stand at that center point where we are, and we pause, and we even allow ourselves to not know, to spin and say, this is, wow, I've never been at this empty point before. I've never been at this crossroad before. That's how we call down the spirits. And that spirit is what can allow us to make wise, skillful choices when we come to these points of impasse. Now, what I want to add here, and it's important to say that crossroads are also the places where the tricksters hang out. You can look at any tradition and you will find noted that when you come to the crossroad, you don't go to sleep because it's very easy to make the wrong turn. And I'm talking about myth, and I'm talking about, like yesterday when I went in the woods, I literally did, it was a small woods, and I said to myself, be careful because the trails weren't marked. I got lost. There was a cross point. I came back and I was like, did I come this way or did I come this way? And I had to stop. Luckily, because I could have just gone off headlong onto this other trail, which was what I was going to do, and gotten really well lost. I'm up in Maine, and you can get lost in the woods here. But I stopped, and I kind of waited, and I went in, and I did a process we're going to learn today of kind of going in and sensing in kind of Neijing. And then it got clear to me which way to go. So tricksters hang out at the crossroads. One of those tricksters is the Nigerian god Eshu. And Eshu is known to be he'll fool you every time. Like he's kind of a he, she. They're even mostly tricksters are androgynous. So that comes back to this idea of divine feminine, divine masculine. We need them both. And at the cross point is where they meet in us and in the trickster, who's both male and female, who can shape shift. Eshu will trick you. It's the kind of the god of commerce, of communication, of change. So both, you got to keep your eyes open when you're around these trickster gods. The god that we look at in the Western alchemical tradition is Mercurius. And many of you may know Mercurius, or Mercury, is the god of alchemy. And we're going to be looking at that more deeply as we go into what is alchemical healing. But for now, just to say that Mercurius, the god of alchemy, and if any of you have ever been able to look at a little vial of mercury, you see it shapeshifts. It separates into 1,000 little bits, and then it comes back together. It shines and it slips, and it looks like, well, we'll get into what it looks like later. But these energies are what we are confronting right now. Like, I'll just give you one story about Eshu, which I think is very relevant to our time. So in West Africa, they tell a story about Eshu. Tremendous trickster. He shows up as a coyote, can show up as a bug, can show up as an old, woman sitting at the crossroads that you meet. But they love to hang out in the marketplace because, as you know, there's commerce, there's change, people are exchanging things, and you can get tricked at the marketplace. You can get tricked in the treatment room. So Eshu went one day into the market, and there were all these people around, and they'd never seen him before. And he was walking through, and the crowd kind of parted. And as he was walking through, he had a little cap on. And then he went by, and the people said, "Who was that stranger who just walked by and then left at the crossroads?" And on one side, they said, "Yeah, who was that guy with the red cap?" And then on the other side, the people said, "Well, who was the guy with the blue cap?" So what you get is like Eshu had a cap on, one side's red, one side's blue, remind you of anything. And then later that day, he turned around and walked back. And this time, the people on the side who saw his red hat said, "No, wait a minute, that must be the guy they saw with the blue hat." And the people on the other side said, "Whoa, now we're seeing the guy with the red hat." The bottom line is, what they did is it created a conversation. It created a question. Who is that guy? Does he have a red hat? Does he have a blue hat? That's the energy that happens when we're at the crossroads. And you can see it happening now. And our choice point is, are we just going to get into arguing about it? Are we going to get more and more divisive, more wounded, more broken up? Or are we going to find a different kind of dialogue that includes the possibility that not knowing, that not being so sure, that being open to Spirit's guidance is more appropriate response at this time? So we're dealing with a tricky energy. Again, we have the tools to work with this in Chinese medicine. A needle is a beautiful way to respond to a trickster. So is moxa. Anyway, so we're dancing shaman. That's what we're being called to do, at least from my perspective, at the Crossroads.